Hi, welcome back to Examining Life, a life that's worth living. My name is Amanda. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Wisdom Wednesday. First, I want to thank everyone who has subscribed, and if you haven't already, please go ahead and click the red rectangle to subscribe. I also want to thank my patrons. Thank you very much for your donations. I greatly appreciate your support. Today, I will be discussing a quote from Sartre's chapter called Bad Faith in his book, Being and Nothingness. Sartre was an existentialist philosopher. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, existentialism is a philosophical theory which argues that, quote, authenticity is necessary to grasp human existence, end quote. So today's quote from Being and Nothingness is, quote, there is the dance of the grocer, of the tailor, of the auctioneer, by which they endeavor to persuade their clientele that they are nothing but a grocer, an auctioneer, a tailor. A grocer who dreams is offensive to the buyer because such a grocer is not wholly a grocer. Society demands that he limit himself to his function as a grocer. There are indeed many precautions to imprison a man in what he is, as if we lived in perpetual fear that he might escape from it, that he might break away and suddenly elude his condition, end quote. So first, one who conforms his or her identity solely to that of what society wants is living in bad faith because he or she is not acting authentically. To be authentic, one must choose to be him or herself wholeheartedly. This quote made me ask, to what degree does a person's means of earning an income define his or her identity? And who makes that decision? Who defines one's identity? Society or the individual? It should be the person him or herself, but we cannot stop society from making assumptions and viewing individuals in a certain way. What matters, though, is the perspective of that individual. Is he or she being his or her authentic self? If the answer is yes, then great. An authentic person would be him or herself despite whether society others him or her. However, if the individual is not being his or her authentic self, then he or she is living in bad faith. Furthermore, to determine the degree to which one's means of earning an income defines his or her identity, I'm inclined to distinguish between a career and a job. And please note this is purely my interpretation. One who has a career may willingly allow, or even want, his or her form of employment to define him or her. The key word here is willingly, which implies freedom. If one has a career, he or she probably gains some meaning from that form of employment, which he or she wants as part of his or her identity. If one wants his or her identity to be defined by his or her career, then he or she is acting authentically. And although, please note, just because someone has a career and might want it to define them, not everyone who has a career wants that career to define who he or she is. But again, that is up to the individual themselves. On the other hand, one who has a job may allow his or her job to define his or her identity, but possibly not. If one who has a job, such as a grocer, who may not want the job to define him or her, but allows it to, because society puts that label on him or her, then he or she is acting in bad faith, because that identity is being imposed on him or her, rather than him or her wanting that identity. He or she has some self-deception about who he or she is, because he or she has not freely chosen his or her role as a grocer as a significant part of his or her identity. However, society will continue to label individuals both with a career or with just a job, regardless of whether or not those individuals want to be viewed in that light. From my experience, I have never had a job that defines my identity. Then again, I've only had jobs, never a career. There have been instances where I was looked at in a certain way due to my low employment status and not living up to the earning expectations that both I and others had for me. However, what this has taught me is that I'm not defined by my means of making an income. Other factors or areas of my life define who I am as a person, such as my hobbies, and the character traits that I possess to be successful at those. So the takeaway from this episode is simply be your authentic self. Don't allow society's definition of you to be the only definition. Yes, society's definition will exist, but it's up to you to live authentically. Thank you for watching this week's Wisdom Wednesday. Let me know in the comments below what you think of how one's identity is formed, and what do you need to do to live authentically. And please remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Stay tuned every Wednesday. Happy travels. Thank you. Bye.